Okay, so tonight we're here to talk about community action for nature, like we have. So we've been meeting for almost a year. This is our fourth meeting. So apologies to those who've heard all this before, but just for the sake of those who haven't. So yeah, my name's Rose. I'm on behalf of holding this meeting on behalf of RCT Local Nature Partnership. So basically we're just holding these workshops to try and to give you ideas and inspiration for activities that you can do in your communities to help nature. So this is a few of the people who are involved in the Local Nature Partnership. So the Local Nature Partnership is people that get together people that are doing anything to help nature in RCT. So that's from, NGOs like the Wildlife Trust to recording groups like the Morgan Fungus Group, and then statutory bodies like NRW and the Council as well. So it's anyone that's doing action for nature. And this is our main mission, which is to work together to plan and deliver action for nature in the county. And our overall aim is to raise awareness of the nature of RCT, record the nature of RCT, protect the nature of RCT, and to manage areas as well. So just take any sort of action that we can. And that's from plans and policy development. So some of you have seen the Nature Recovery Action Plan, which is called Action for Nature, which is currently in review. And you've got the chance to feedback on that if you wanted to. But we also get together and meet, as we're doing tonight, doing networking and sharing best practice. We'll actually run practical conservation projects. So like Wayne from the BTO group and the council are running working together on willow tip projects at the moment. We report on what everyone's up to and what actions are being taken. Education and awareness raising and advice as well. So trying to help people that are doing what they can for nature. So this is, again, just to reiterate, this is the Action for Nature plan, our Nature Recovery Action Plan, which is in review at the moment. This is the web address at the bottom here. We'd really appreciate you going to have a look and letting us know what you think of it, because we want it to be usable for someone who's just looking to see what they can do to help nature. So, we've got this How Can I Help button here. If you could click onto that and just take a look. And sorry, I'm just going to mute a few people. Just take a look at that and see if there's anything useful in there and what you think of that. That would be really useful for us, and you can just let me know on email what you think. If anyone has had a look, let us know and stick it in the chat. Maybe we'll have a chat about it later in the meeting. We're just going to dive straight in tonight with some ideas for events and activities. So thanks to Chloe, she's helped me put this together tonight. So again, as usual, we're going to look at some activities that you can do at home in your garden, that you could do when you're out and about with a group, or you could just do when you have a spare weekend. And we covered December in the last meeting, so we're going to start off with January and in the new year. I know it feels far away, we've got Christmas to get through first. But yes, we'll kick off with January, and we'll start with a New Year plant hunt. So this is a really nice thing that the British Society, the Botany Society, I can't actually remember all the what BSBI stands for exactly, but that's running from the very start of the year, the 1st, through to the 4th of January. The idea of that is just that you go out and look for plant species that are in flower, and they're basically trying to find out what the changes are in the autumn and winter weather patterns. So global warming, how is it changing? How is it impacting the flora that we have? So that would just be an interesting one. It's easy enough. You just go out and you look for flowers, things that are in flower. And they have, it says in 2021 they found 710 species that were actually flowering in January, which is not what you'd expect at all. So that's a nice one, New Year's Day walk, or get your group out earlier on in the year for some fresh air and just look what you can find in flower. So the web address for that is down here. As usual, I will PDF this presentation so you can have all the web links to hand. I'll email it round along with a link to the recording. Another good activity, January, you think there's not that much to do, but actually, there is quite a bit to do, really. One thing that we definitely have a lot of in Wales in January is mud, possibly snow if we're lucky. But this is winter actually is the best season to go and look for animal tracks, because you've got snow and wet mud, things like that, preserve prints, and the undergrowth is very bare as well. So this could be a really good time to go out and look for tracks without having to lay any traps or anything beforehand. So there's a nice guide here, and some of them you can see they're really distinctive. The hedgehogs are quite distinctive. Badger, this is a badger print I took a photo of. You can see really clearly it's this nice broad pad, and then you will see 5 toes, whereas in comparison with a fox, it's like a dog's print, you'll have 4 toes. So yeah, a nice easy thing to do, just go and look for a nice patch of mud and see if you can find some prints. And then the big event for January is the RSPB's Big Garden Bird Watch. So that's a really, really easy one. Obviously, it's a case of sitting in your window with a cup of tea and your binoculars. This is being held at the end of January this year. So between the 28th and 30th of January, you just set aside an hour and sit and watch the birds in the garden, which is no hardship. So that's a nice one to encourage. I'm not sure if you do it more, you can do it more than once, like you can with the butterfly count. Someone else might know better than me on that. Do you know if you just do it once, or if you can repeat it over the weekend? If anyone knows, stick the answer in the chat or something.
I think they encourage schools as well, and that obviously is done outside the weekend. So there must be an opportunity to do it twice, must be.
Oh, that's good.
They would either do it on the Friday or the Monday in the school, so gives you an idea anyway.
Yeah, no, it's a nice event to do, isn't it? So that's good tip. And there we are. So yeah, there's the link to that is down there as well. So just go along and read more about that. I think you get a nice pack with it, knowing the RSPB as well. So into February then, the next month, with the winters we've been having sort of mild and wet, you're looking at February for a time when toads and frogs start to emerge again. So toads and frogs, but toads in particular are an issue with this. Everyone thinks that they'll live in ponds, which they do, but they tend to go to ponds just to breed. So from sort of February, March time, April time, they'll be in the ponds breeding. But the rest of the year, they'll leave the ponds and they'll migrate out into the countryside or into people's gardens. And they're hunting your slugs and your snails in your gardens, and hibernating under logs and things. So they don't actually spend the majority of their time in the ponds. But come the spring, they need to migrate back to the ponds to start breeding. And that's where we start having issues with a bit of conflict with humans. Basically, what we've tended to do is there's a nice big pond there where the toads will be visiting, and we tend to come along and build a road between there and a nice patch of woodland, and the toads then have to cross those roads to get back to their ponds. And I'm sure people have seen this, roads that are just littered with dead toads in the spring, or if you're out in the rain in February and you can just see them in your headlights. So a really nice thing to do if you are aware of a place where toads are in danger of being squished on the roads is to set up a toad patrol. So we've got a group over in Neathport Talbot that's been doing this for a long time, over 10 years, I think, and they've rescued, you know, thousands and thousands of toads. It's not the nicest job. You have to commit to it because it happens, you go out when it rains, basically. So you can see this is me, and I dragged one of my poor unsuspecting friends, not an ecologist at all, out on a toad patrol. You can do scientific studies as part of this. You can just fling toads into a bucket and move them off to the ponds, but you can also do some studies and measurements on the toads and report that back to I think it's Frog Life, the charity, so you can get some measures of it as well. But yeah, no, it's a nice activity. Everyone get your waterproofs on, get your torches, and head out onto the roads. Obviously, safely, you need to do that. So there's a link there on how to become a toad patroller, the things you need to consider, which is high vis, very good torches, maybe some signage out on the roads. In some places, you'd also need to think about permissions for doing it. So if it's a very busy road, you wouldn't want to be putting yourself in danger. But I've just chucked this map in here, which is from the Wales Online Amphibian and Reptile Atlas. The link to that is, there's 3 links at the bottom there. And the bottom one is the link to this map. So you can kind of see this is where toads have been recorded in RCT. You know, you can have a look in your area basically and see, is there anywhere that toads are struggling and having trouble with crossing the roads, and maybe this is something you might want to consider. So it's a good time to scope this out in February. We put this in as a potential activity for World Wetlands Day, which is on the 2nd of February. So obviously toads are really need to rely on wetlands for their breeding process. And it's funny, the reason that toads do get into trouble on roads is while they're on their way to the breeding ponds, they're looking for mates. And you'll find that the male toads will just come across this nice smooth expanse of tarmac, find it's a really good area to look for female toads, and then they'll just stay in the road, and that's why so many of them end up squashed, unfortunately. And there's other things you can look at if you find a particular hotspot. They get into trouble by falling into gully pots on the side of road as well. And there's projects you can look at. You can put toad ladders, they're called, down into the drains, which is a special material called anchor mat, which they can cling onto basically and climb their way up out of the drains. So there's a whole, if you find a hotspot like this, basically there's a whole range of activities you can do around them, and it's a good way of getting the keen people involved or put off by dragging them out into the rain every spring. But yes, you do find with the group that we have in Neathport Talbot, so keen. There's about 15 odd people will turn up every time it rains to help the toads. So it's a really nice community activity, and you save a lot of lives basically.
Can I just add something there, Rose?
Yeah.
I've done a few toad patrols in the past, and we had an issue with great crested newts.
Oh,
now,
yes.
strictly speaking, if you're not licensed, you're not supposed to handle them. So what's the advice there?
Oh, that's really tricky. I wouldn't worry about it until you find a great crested newt, because a lot of places, actually there's not that many in RCT. I think this is
actually in Park Slip. We found
Park Slip is where I did that toad patrol as well.
Yeah.
I was licensed, so I didn't actually worry about it at the time. But you would need either some.
My argument was there were great crested newts in danger of getting squashed on the road. Yeah, you weren't supposed to touch them, you know.
You're not supposed to touch them, yeah. Well, there is. I don't know how active they are at the moment. I imagine you did it with South Wales Amphibian and Reptile Group to do the patrol.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Or with me when I worked for the Wildlife Trust. But yeah, no, it's so they have licensed people involved, so it's not something you'd need to worry about. I think with RCT, is if you look at I'm pretty sure we've only got records for great crested newt in the north of the county. If you know that there are records for great crested newt in the area, so you can use that and maybe in a reptile atlas as well. I go back.
Also in Llanharan, Bryn Cai.
Are they in Llanharan as well? So yeah, so this atlas, if we go onto this atlas, look for, you can filter it by species, so you could tick great crested newts, see where they are, and if you find out that they're in your area, then yeah, it's worth getting in touch with South Wales Amphibian and Reptile Group. I think that they're probably still active, or someone in the council or the Wildlife Trust to see if you've got a licensed person that could help you. Once you're trained in a little bit, it doesn't have to be, you just have to show that you're capable of handling a newt safely and moving it to safety. You can be put on someone else's license as I can't remember what the terminology is, but basically they can put you under their license so that you're allowed to handle the newts. Yeah, thanks, Alan. Actually, that's a complication I hadn't thought about, but yeah, it's usually something you do.
There are historic records in Nangaru as well, so let's see if I can find them.
Yeah, it's worth looking. I want to brush off and look at that atlas now to remind myself where they are. But yeah, worth doing that before you set up anything, or get in touch with us in the partnership, because Richard knows exactly where they all are, basically. So there we are. So yeah, that's a good point. Has anyone actually seen any toad problem areas? There's another good, we've talked about it in a previous meeting, I think, is Project Splatter, and they collect roadkill records. So they're probably a good one to get in touch with and sort of say, have you noticed any hotspots for toads in RCT being killed on the roads? So maybe that's something we should do as the Nature Partnership, and see if there's any hotspots we could point people towards. But yeah, if anyone spotted somewhere where toads get into trouble on the roads, stick it in the chat and we can look into it a bit further. So another one then for February is the big farmland bird count. So yeah, farmland birds, I'm sure everyone's aware, one of the many species that have suffered since the war. So with agricultural intensification, loss of hedgerows, more efficiency, with the machineries and so on, there's a bit less food and nesting opportunities out there for our farmland birds. So in the spring there is the big farmland bird count. Any day during I can't remember what the dates are, but it's in the link there. You go out and spend 30 minutes recording the species and the number of birds that you see in one particular area. So you try and find a location with a good view of a couple of hectares, and you record the types of habitat that's there, what they might be feeding on, if you see them feeding. So that's things like the yellowhammer, skylarks. In that time of year as well, you might see lapwings if you're lucky, overwintering. So yeah, again, a nice one. There's not a huge amount of, but yeah, if you've got farmland that you know of and a friendly farmer, or a place you can overlook, it's a nice one to do as well. Has anyone done that one before? No. You have, Helen, did you say?
Sorry, no, I was saying no, I haven't tried that one. I've done the RSPB bird count, and that's about as far as my identification skills go. A few magpies and pigeons.
Yeah, you have to build up to it over time, I think, and relearn every year, especially calls. Yeah, no, it's a good one. I think you'll find that this particular session is quite bird heavy because there's not a huge amount. That's the main thing that is around in the spring. Oh, you've done it in the Vale. Yeah. Was it easy enough to do, Al? I put it in the chat. Okay. there we are. This is the last thing on birds, but very relevant to Pontyclun Clean Environment Group, I know. In February, we've got National Nest Box Week, which is 14th to the 21st of February. So this is a good one. If you've already got nest boxes up, this is a good time to go and do your maintenance. So cleaning them out from last year. If they were used last year, you want to clear the old material out because that can harbour parasites, diseases, things like that, things that you wouldn't want to affect this year's nests. So that is a good activity. You quite often see small mammals as well, mice shooting out of the boxes when you get near them and things. So it's a good, you can do a sort of 2-in-1 survey session really. And birds might actually use them to roost too. Sorry, Helen, you saying something?
It just made me think that when we're doing the nest boxes, that we'll need to factor in that being able to take them down to clean as well. Then I hadn't really thought of the detail of that. Yeah,
it's worth remembering, definitely. Yeah, it's a good thing to build in as a bit of maintenance every year, just to make sure that you get the best use of your boxes. I was hoping that you guys would chip in here.
In terms of maintenance, yes, you could have a hinged lid, so you wouldn't have to take them down. You could just take the old contents out and give it a clean if you wanted.
Okay, great.
Yeah, that's good to bear in mind. Yeah, in your design. Bernadette?
Yeah, I suppose it's a question really. If we haven't put up any nest boxes before, would this be a good time to do it then? To actually put them up as well? You know, you're talking about cleaning and maintaining. So would this be a good time if we're going to do this activity to do it then? That's what
yeah. Well, Wayne's chipping in here. I'm gonna bow to more experienced answer.
Yeah,
Thanks, Bernadette. I've shared a link in the chat. Yes, no. February does tend to be a recommended time to erect boxes and maintain old ones. So one of the reasons, so some of the rationale behind that is birds will use nest boxes to roost in over the winter period, and other creatures as well, like bats and mice. Come the spring, obviously some of those species are becoming more active, but birds also will then start to be looking for territories, particularly resident birds such as blue tits and grey tits. So they are looking for space in which they can breed in March and April. And also, if you put them up in February, it just gives the boxes a bit of time to get weathered. So yeah, February it doesn't mean to say you can't put boxes up at other times of year, but February is a particularly good time.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Wayne. Yeah, so I put one example of a guide of how to make a nest box here as well, which you might find useful, but the link at the bottom is to the BTO's website. So they've got a few different plans for different types of nest boxes, because that one's ideal for a blue tit there. But you know, if for a robin, they like the open fronted boxes. Well, there's a wealth of different types of boxes you could build basically, and this website's got a good list, but I think there's 3 on that particular page for different types of your common birds. Yeah, so that's a good one. So hopefully a lot of you will be doing that one in the spring, because that's an easy win. If you've got a tree without a nest box on it, it's a nice thing to do. Has someone else got their hand up there, or is everyone? I know it's Alan and Bernadette. You're both happy with that?
Yeah, just one thing. If you do put boxes up, think about reinforcing the hole, because great spotted woodpeckers have learnt to go in and try and steal eggs or chicks. So if you can, I just make it out of a bit of old aluminium, but put a piece around the hole to stop squirrels as well getting into the box. And if you're putting a hinged lid, try and put a little latch on it to keep it shut, because squirrels can open lids of hinged boxes. So what we do is put a little nail either side with a piece of wire over the top to stop the lid being lifted by squirrels.
Yeah, brilliant. I actually saw in Cry Gladys, one of the volunteers who does a nest box monitoring scheme there, uses sort of the inner bit of wheels, bicycle wheels. I can't remember what it's got, like the thing that holds all the spokes in place. It's like the perfect shape already. It like fits around the hole, so you don't have to worry about drilling aluminium or anything. It's already the right shape. I'll find a picture and put it in the chat or send it in the email afterwards. Looks nice as well. The other thing to consider is when you're putting up your nest boxes is the positioning as well. So there's guides on the links there, but for certain birds they want a clear flight path to come in, and then where in relation to the angle in relation to the sun as well. You don't want to put it south-facing because you might end up cooking chicks basically. But so there's recommendations, isn't there, for Alan and Wayne? Again, we'll probably chip in here, but there's recommendations for which direction you want your box facing and things to avoid basically. Yeah, no worries. Okay. So moving into March then, the 3rd of March is World Wildlife Day. And we've got the theme for next year is recovering key species for ecosystem restoration. I haven't really put a proper activity here, but in RCT, I was thinking that this could potentially be our opportunity to plan some activities for some of the key species. So, is there, we know that we've got some like very iconic species for RCT. We've got the marsh fritillary butterfly, green-winged orchids. Up in the bogs as nightjars, dormice are down in the south. It could be a really good opportunity to use World Wildlife Day to sort of get your group involved in finding out more about these key species, and then what you could do in your particular areas, because every area of RCT, as we know, is quite different. The south is much, the south where there's Ross pasture is very different to the valley sides up in the valleys. So it's a good opportunity maybe to find out what is key for your local area, and then from there what you might want to do to help them. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of scope for marsh fritillary action, for people helping with Ross pastures management. Like the Pontyclean Environment Group have been out on Pant Marsh. There's a wealth of things you could do there to help the marsh fritillary, which is the key species that we're focusing on down there, and the devil's bit scabious. So yeah, I just thought that was a nice thing to do for that time of year, is just to reflect on what you've got, do a bit of research, and plan some activities going forward. Alan, is your hand up again? Sorry, yeah.
Yes, sorry. Don't bang on about willow tits too much, but March is an excellent time to go out and look for willow tits, because that's when they start calling. So we are possibly planning a walk to go and look for willow tits. I was up in Garran last week and saw 3, so they are about. Brilliant.
Oh well, yeah, definitely let us know about that walk, because it would be nice to actually get, if possible, as many of us out to meet out in the field and actually do some activity out in the field next year if we can. So yeah, keep us in the loop about that. That'd be good. Animal in this picture in the middle, this is my camo picture. So I can't zoom in on this, but if you look closely, there's 3 birds on a nest. So there's the parent bird, and then I think 2 chicks here, very well camouflaged, and that's the nightjars. So you'll find them in the uplands of RCT. They like clear felled forestry. You can see why, because they camouflage right in with the sort of the ground structure there. So yeah, that's another thing that would be nice to do with this group as well, as a nightjar walk, because that's I've never heard them. They come out at night and cheer, but Richie's here actually from the Lost Peatlands project, so maybe he can talk about that.
I can talk about the event itself. Yeah, there'll be one next summer. Last summer was during that heatwave week, so yeah, lovely night, and it'll be a nice event for everyone to get involved. Brilliant,
thank you. Cool. And then this is a nice one I wanted to mention for the spring as well, because it's something that I know that the Pond Clean group would be keen to look at this. So yeah, going out and looking for otters is a good thing to do at this time of year as well. So otters, the signs of otters, so we're looking at, well, otters have made a major recovery. Basically, they were almost on the verge of extinction, linked with many things, but one of them was DDT, causing issues with fertility, and the population had completely crashed. And DDT was banned, and various steps were taken to try and help the populations recover. And actually, the otters are back on every river in Wales now. So we know that they're around, and you very rarely will see the actual animal itself, but you can go out and look for signs of otters. They're crepuscular, so they're out at dawn and they're out at dusk, and they'll be out and about in the night as well. But so yeah, you're very, very lucky if you see an actual otter, but you can look for the signs of them. And the main things to look for are the spraints, so otter poo. I've got a close-up photo of this as well, but it's very distinctive. It's usually full of bones. It's got a very distinctive smell, which is not unpleasant. Some people say it's like Parma violets. I don't know. It's sort of got a fishy smell to it as well. It's very distinctive, and it's not horrible. Basically, if you find a poo on the side of a riverbed and it smells horrible, it's not an otter. And I just love this rock here. This was on the side of the River Neath, and it was quite a big rock. That's the sort of thing you want to look for, is quite a prominent feature, like a big boulder. It had the spraint right at the top, and if you can see the claw marks in the algae, where the otters obviously sat at the top, left the spraint, and then slid down the rock back into the river, and there is another spraint here as well. So what you do to look for them, this is a really nice little diagram I found on the Somerset Otter Group's website. These are the sort of places you go to look. If there's a bridge, a little bridge with a path underneath that you can walk on, almost guaranteed to find otter spraints under them. They're the best places to look for them. Where rivers split, where tributaries join, or where a river splits in half, they'll quite often, it's a territory marking thing, the sprainting. So you'll quite often find it at places like that where two water bodies meet. Weirs on canals, I've found other signs of otters there when they do quite a gory thing as well, where they'll if you ever find, talking of the poor toads, they have enough problems on the roads, and then quite often they get to the ponds. And what otters like to do is, if they eat toads have got toxins in their skins. So essentially they'll skin the toads and just leave skin with some back legs attached. I've got a photo of that as well, which it's quite gory. If you find a collection of toads that look like they've been massacred, an otter's been in the area, basically. But yeah, things like litter in the rivers, worth a look. If it's prominent and it's sticking out of a river, it's a place to look, and on stumps and things like that, islands in the middle of rivers. So that's the sort of place you would look. Obviously, a few things to consider is the safety of being around a river in spring. There's also, if the river's in flood, there's absolutely no point in going out. It's not safe at all, and all the spraints and the signs will be washed away anyway. So don't worry about that. Just don't go out. If it's been quiet, there's not been much rain, the river levels are low, that's a good time to go out. You'll find fresh spraints, basically. And just a bit more of a close-up of a spraint. This is kind of what it looks like. It's quite dark black, sort of tar. tar look in appearance, and lots of bones sticking out of it, and it'll be frog, amphibian bones, that kind of thing. So you can dissect them if you want to too as well. So yeah, that's a really nice activity, good one, get everyone wrapped up warm and go and look underneath bridges. Canals are really good places to take a group of people because they're relatively safe, and you are almost guaranteed to find signs of otter. So that's a nice one to do in the spring. Any questions on that one? Sorry, I'm struggling to I can't see the chat while I'm talking, so I'll try and keep up. Last thing, I think this is the last thing I was going to mention, yeah, for March then, is obviously you'll start getting the trees putting out buds then. So that's another nice thing to do, get people to hone their identification skills, and go out and look at spring buds. Lots of them are really, really distinctive as well. So you'll get hazel, we'll get catkins in spring, alder as well, we'll get purple catkins, purple cones. Ash have got these nice, big, robust black buds. Beech has got this very distinctive sort of cigar-shaped buds. And there's lots of nice guides. This is about as all you need really. You just take this out and you can compare it and go from there. And it's also a good time to look for the bees that have come out of hibernation. So you'll get all the queen bumblebees out and about at this time of year. They go and look for a willow tree, basically a pussy willow that's in flower will be absolutely heaving with bees. So you can do a little cheeky bee survey while you're at it as well. So that's a nice sort of spring trees and bees walk idea. Yeah, Helen, do you have a question on that one?
More of a comment really. I appreciate that your team has got limited capacity and you can't be going out and about with community groups all the time. But for things like this and the otter one as well, I feel like as somebody involved with the community group, just by watching this, I wouldn't be confident enough to take a group out because I don't know enough about it. Maybe I would go out for a wander just with my family, but in terms of doing wider public activities, I suppose what I would like really is if you could bring it up at the wider partnership meetings, that something maybe about like train the trainer for taking groups out or something like that, to kind of get people more confident, because like even these kind of beds, like I know what some things are but not enough to be taking a group out.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, because you don't. Yeah, I know the feeling when I was a people and wildlife officer. And I'd come out of university and I'd trained in ecology, and it was terrifying because you're the leader and you've got people going to you, well, is this right? And you're like, oh, I'm not sure. So I do get that, and I think it would be nice to train the trainer would be a nice one, wouldn't it? Would that be something that people would be interested in? Maybe because capacity is an issue, so maybe we could say for in between the 3 months, say we could do one session on something that the group would like to do the most. Maybe that would work. So
if we could do like a poll or something, or as I mentioned via email, our group has got some funds if we wanted to bring somebody in as well. Like we've got loads of ideas but we don't have the knowledge, so that's what we're keen to get.
Yeah, and the issue we've got with like I've told you, obviously mentioned capacity. A lot of the NGOs really struggled over COVID and lost a lot of staff. So usually, things like people like the Wildlife Trust would have someone who might be able to help, but it's not always the case at the moment, sadly. But then you have got these lovely recording groups who are mostly volunteers that sometimes they are able to help as well. But yeah, maybe if we did a bit of a poll then for all these different activities following the meeting and had a bit of a vote on what we could run a train the trainer session on, that would be quite a nice way of moving forward with this. Yeah, I think that would be good actually.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Subrek run some courses from time to time. Obviously not in the last year or two, but it's worth perhaps Elaine to see what they may be planning for next year.
That's true. There's the South East Wales Biodiversity Record Centre, SUBREC. By the way, I should have been saying this for every single activity I've mentioned, is that we always want to submit our records if possible, so that, you know, if it goes out into the wider world then, and then people that might need to know about that particular record for protecting it through planning or taking habitat action. You know, for example, the group will use records that other people have collected to decide on where our actions should be. So yeah, if you've recorded something, then get those records into SUBREC as well. But yeah, I think this SUBREC have got a lot of good courses, but this is possibly something different again, because it's sort of training you to have a bit of confidence to take your groups out. So I think that's something we could do. Wayne, did you have a thought on that?
I guess I was thinking whether there's possibilities of sharing information with this group about some of the sort of species or not species, but taxa specific recording groups. So there's a Glamorgan Bird Club, there's a Valleys Bat group, there's South Wales Amphibian group, and so on and so on. You know, there'll be groups specialising in insects or arachnids and plants, and it's whether a list of some sort is made available, so someone like Helen who's got an interest in a community group, maybe it was specialists, and then invite someone along to share their knowledge.
Yeah. Sorry, we lost you for a little bit in there, but I think we got the gist. Yeah, definitely. I think there is a list on SUBREC's web pages, but I can pull that out.
Okay.
Around. Thanks, Wayne. Yeah, that's a good point actually. So yeah, there is a lot of specialist groups. So Mark's here from the fungus group, and obviously Wayne and Alan are here from the bird groups. So yeah, I'll put that list together and send it round, because it's a source of local expertise basically. Very good point. So Alan's put in the chat from Glamorgan Bird Club about being willing to help out as well. And then yeah, calendar charting the arrival of spring migrants. Yeah, that would be useful to send round to see as well, and for the group to have, so you know when to start looking out for things that are arriving in the spring. Yeah, okay. I do like the idea of having a little, because it would be nice to get this group together outside of Teams as well, I think. So if we do something like that, I'll look at that. Thanks, Helen. Okay. So then this is just a reminder of Nature's calendar. We haven't got the 2022 version of this yet, but they are generally always around the same dates. So I've just thrown that in there again to help with your forward planning going forward for the year. There we are, and I am going to hand over to Richie now, who's guest speaker for the night from the Lost Peatlands project. So, well, you can introduce yourself, Richie.
Yeah. Cheers, Rose. Hi all. Yeah, I'm just going to share screen. We should be away. Right, all good there?
Mm-hmm.
Cool, there we are. So yeah, hi everyone, thanks for having me along. My name is Richie Pullman. I'm the project manager for the Lost Peatlands project. Tonight, I will be giving a brief overview of what we're doing, where, why, how, and then ways in which you might like to get involved. So Lost Peatlands project, we officially started in July this year, following a 2-year development phase. We'll be running to 2025 at least in this first phase. We're predominantly funded by the National Lottery Heritage Fund, but we also receive match funding key stakeholders like Vattenfall, who are the owner of Pennacamoy wind farm. It's a partnership project between Leith Talbot Council, RCT Council, NRW, Swansea University and Coes Leol. Partnership has forged links with a wider range of other organisations and groups, otherwise known as stakeholders, and the slide you see before you details most of who's involved so far. Not everybody, but and that list will expand as we move forward. So where are we? The project area itself straddles the boundary of NPT and RCT in the South Wales Valleys. Large project area is 6,500 hectares, mostly covering the upland plateau between Leith Talbot and RCT. It also dips down into the upper Avon and upper Rhondda valleys. And this map that you see now shows our sites. The blue areas are our peatland restoration sites. We've got 3 in total. The orange are the community wild spaces, which are basically sinks or sites of interest for nature conservation. They are within or beside the communities that we're working with in this project. You'll also see the orange outline there, and that's the Pennacamoy wind farm and their habitat management area, which is feeding into the project itself. So let's have a quick look at what lies within. It's a lovely area of wilderness, as most people know. 49 designated sites within the project area, linked up by a huge area of habitat that supports plenty of rare and important wildlife, including water vole, nightjar, many more. But most importantly for this project, at least, the vast areas of deep peat that have been there for thousands of years and still remain. So just to touch on peat, these habitats are crucial in the world's approach to achieving its carbon goals for good reason. Formed over millennia, they are amongst the most carbon-rich ecosystems on Earth. So they store around 25% of total soil carbon, whilst only occupying 3% of global land area. In the UK itself, approximately 10% of the land area, that's around 2.6 million hectares, is covered in peat. Around 20% of that lot, of that 10% within the UK, are in a near natural state, leaving 80% either being modified or damaged. So peatlands in a good condition act as a carbon sink, locking in vast amounts of carbon. They can also reduce flood risk, improve water quality, they support biodiversity, and have a net cooling effect on climate. However, when peatlands are damaged, they actually become a significant carbon emitter. It is therefore vital to assess the peatlands we have and determine how best to restore them. This is typically done by focusing on the hydrology of an area, and through restoration works, the re-wetting of peatlands will allow them to return to their natural state. What about the historical heritage and interest in the area? So the landscape here really has gone through significant change. Human presence goes back to Neolithic times, evidenced through that picture you can see there of it's an oak post found in a peat bog above Mardy, and it happens to be the oldest inscribed post found in Europe as things stand. We then had the Industrial Revolution in the area, which is a defining feature of the area's history. Following that, mass tree planting after the Second World War, and more recently, renewable wind farms that now dominate the skyline along with the commercial forestry. Following the removal of large-scale industry in the area, the communities we'll be working with are in need of increased opportunities. So we'll be offering a wide range of activities, education, training courses, and they'll be occurring in the towns in the Upper Avon and Upper Rhondda valleys. So now to our aims. We will be restoring and managing upland habitats. We'll be encouraging exploration of the area, providing learning opportunities and events for all to get involved with, improving access and interpretation, and finally we'll be delivering key research findings through Swansea University's monitoring and evaluation work, which will inform peatland restoration, especially on previously afforested peatlands. To deliver this slot, so we've got 6 work programmes, and I'll just go into those programmes briefly. So programme 1 is restoration and our work, peatland restoration itself. It's the backbone of the project. All in, we're looking at 250 hectares of previously afforested peatland. To put it in a nutshell, we want to re-wet these peatlands by blocking drainage channels. That's best done by the methods outlined on the slide there. And with help from Swansea University, as mentioned before, as well as project ecologists and volunteers, we'll be adopting a comprehensive monitoring programme that will inform some key research to address evidence gaps in peatland literature. We'll also be actively managing our community wild spaces and the wider project area for biodiversity through habitat management and ecological surveying. And we're looking at almost 500 hectares of habitat actively managed. I'll be going into that a bit more later. So learning is programme 2. It's the infographic you can see here shows a range of what we'll be including in project delivery. We've got education, so 7 schools, 4 of those in RCT have signed up for an outdoor learning programme, as well as field trips. For adults, we will provide a wide range of training. The programme will encourage skills and confidence development from informal learning to formal accreditation and higher level professional courses. Again, I'll go into a bit more detail on that later. Swansea University staff, along with their students, will be carrying out research at the peatland sites themselves, and we're currently looking at 3 PhDs. And yeah, we've had 2 master's theses at the minute. I think there's, yeah, we're looking at multiple master's theses coming out of this project, so it's a really good opportunity to get some good work coming out of this. The access is programme 3, and better walking routes and signage was something that the community consultation that we carried out in the development phase identified as being needed in the area. So with better signage, waymarkers and mats, will be promoting 6 circular walks, and they'll be starting and finishing in our community wild spaces. We'll also be proposing a new long distance route, the so-called Peatland Way, which is 21-mile stretch from Dare Valley Country Park over to Avon Forest Park, and that will also have circular routes at each end. There'll be the opportunity to join the project and Ramblers Cymru in looking after these routes by becoming a path guardian, and there'll also be guided walks from Ramblers Cymru, our own ecologists, local historians, and the various groups that we're affiliated with. Health, Wellbeing and Communities is programme 4. So it's the more people-oriented work programme. Volunteering is one listed here. I'll be going into that into more detail in a bit. Guided walks and nature-themed events will be held. Night trials was mentioned earlier. So we had 1 this July. There's going to be, I think, more than 2. I'll have to check that. But yeah, we've got several things going on throughout the summer. Health and wellbeing workshops will be delivered at our community wild spaces. That's an opportunity for both families and adults to get involved. It's a great opportunity to get out, learn some great skills, meet people, and bathe in the glorious nature found in our sites, or the sites that we're working in, I should say. So arts, crafts, skills events are also on offer. So the dry stone walling and outdoor carpentry is their examples, something I'm personally quite looking forward to. Programme 5 is awareness raising, so there'll be further efforts to get our work out there through various marketing means. Project website is pretty much ready. It should be released in the next week or so. That's going to have a lot of resources on, and also booking procedure and events calendars, etc. You can also follow us on social media or sign up to our newsletter. And finally, programme 6 is project management and evaluation. So a part of this is several groups that have been set up. These will allow anyone to have input into the project. So if you'd like to join any of these groups, to get your voice heard, positively impact the project itself, do get in touch, and you'll be welcome to join 1 or more of these groups. So that's a very quick summary of the key work programmes that we'll be delivering. The image you're looking at, it's a bit of an eyesore really, but if you can make sense of it, it's our expected outcomes for the project. I'll leave that for a sec in case you are looking at it. And yeah, what I'd like to do now is just look into how you might get involved. So there's various sort of ways to get involved. The project currently has a growing base of volunteers, and we'd love some more. This project really does have a focus on nature and ecology itself, with 2 project ecologists in-house, as well as many others through the partnership and stakeholder affiliations that we have. There really is a great opportunity to learn more about our peatland sites themselves, as well as the community wild spaces and the general project area itself. To go on to the volunteer opportunities, if you'd like to get stuck in, get dirty, there's opportunities for habitat management at our CWSs and HRAs. Typical tasks at the community wild spaces include brush, scrub and meadow management. We've got inns control. There's a lot of balsam in some of the sites, so it's mainly balsam pulling. There's also path maintenance for the routes that we're going to be promoting. On the peatlands themselves, the management itself, conifer regen removal. So there's, in some of the sites, there's seed thrown from neighbouring coops. So we would rather not trees be grown on the sites that we're restoring. So we're having various events. We've got an event this Friday actually for volunteers, and that's going to be removal of small trees. We're also planting sphagnum in some of the sites that we're restoring. Sphagnum moss, I won't go into detail on that. I'm sure one day there'll be a presentation from Joey, who's the sphagnum king, really, so he'll do that justice. But sphagnum is the bog builder plant. It's a moss that is indicative of healthy peatlands, really. And we're also building dams at our Castell North site. That would be quite fun to get involved with. So for surveying, if you'd like to get involved in the surveying in the project, there's plenty of opportunity. You can learn how, and well, you can actually get involved with the surveys that will directly benefit the project themselves. It'll add to the data that we're collecting. These surveys are carried out both within our CWSs and HRAs, and with the list that's shown there, vegetation and species surveying is the best way to summarise this. But again, this training is all free and delivered by our project ecologists. So for the remainder of the opportunities, we've got path maintenance, mentioned before, guided walks, also mentioned, BioBlitz events. We've got training courses for both learners and professionals as well. And just to remind you where we are, so in Rhondda and Taff itself, we've got 3 community wild spaces, one in Blaen Rhondda or Penpech, one in Cwm Park, and Hendren Mynydd, which is this top one up the Ricos sort of road up towards towards the top there. We've got 2 HRAs in RCT, and that is Castell North above Mardy and Cwm Cybron, which is pretty much above Trio, but I'd say. And right, so project activity, we're busiest in spring to autumn. We have got stuff going on throughout the winter, but yeah, as with all nature, I guess it's spring to autumn, isn't it? So we will be holding events. We're going to try to sort of line them up in a series at each location. We'll be holding events weekdays, evenings and weekends to sort of really get a feel for sort of people's availability and get our volunteer groups running. So a schedule for that will be devised. We've got a rough idea of what we're delivering next year. We're putting our heads together with Welcome to Our Woods, who are a key stakeholder in the project, and other stakeholders in the area to sort of put a programme together that suits most and doesn't sort of overlap. So that'll be done in January, February sort of time, and on our website, and amongst sort of other sort of opportunities to promote our work. It'll be good advance for the courses and the events that we'll be holding. So something also very important to the project is inclusivity. So we want nobody to feel that they can't get involved with the project itself. So as I mentioned, for all activities are free of charge. We can provide PP and equipment if needed, and travel expenses can also be covered for people, volunteers travelling up to the peatland sites themselves. How to get hold of us? You contact myself. My email isn't actually there, but I can put it in the chat now. Sarah is our community and education officer, so you can email Sarah. We've got a Lost Peatlands email, social media at Lost Peatlands, and like I say, there's a website coming out soon. So this is the last slide. So thanks for listening all, and I'd be happy to take any questions if anybody has any.
Dawn would like to ask a question. Thanks, Richie.
All right, Jess.
You're muted, Dawn, sorry.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I manage RCT Climate Action Network, which is made up of about 80 voluntary groups, and I would like to be able to, you know, explain what you're doing. In fact, there's loads and loads of opportunities for volunteers in all of what everybody said, to be honest with you. And I'm just wondering how we can convey that to them. Maybe we can set up a bit of a presentation that people can attend, and you can speak directly to the members.
Yeah,
even if kind of 30 of them turn up, you know, or 20, you know, you're going to get a lot of access to local people. So it would be great to raise awareness if we can do that.
Oh, that's great, Dawn. Yeah, happy to do that. I could definitely tailor a presentation to that, but yeah, best have a chat outside of this, and yeah, we'll tailor it, and happy to do that. So thanks for that offer.
Okay. My name's Dawn Davis, so my email should be on the email, the circular email I've sent out.
There we are.
If you want me to pass it on to Richie, I can do, Dawn.
That'd be great. Thanks, Rose.
Yeah, no, it's thanks, Richie, for showing us. I just, even if you're down in the south of the county and a little bit away from the project site, it's so worth getting involved with this project. I think, you know, it's in terms of action for climate change, which is what, you know, is the buzzword at the moment. This is the best thing you can do, really, is get involved and help with this project. Large scale peatland restoration is the best thing we can do. So
yes,
brilliant.
Absolutely. Really good to know what's going on, you know.
Yeah, it's a very cool project. Really good.
Yes.
Just to have it going on in our area rather than hearing about it, you know, people
It's
doing
someone
podcasts in Northwest. We can be like, well, we've got it too.
It's a significant peat resource on top there, it really is. Another interesting sort of thing about it is it's the most heavily interconnected peat resource in the UK. So with climate change in mind, it's going to be the first peat bog system that will be affected by warming temperatures and different sort of climatic sort of changes. So in terms of monitoring it, it's quite important, and yeah, it is quite unique that we've got that in the area. There's plenty more than we're restoring still up there. So yeah, we'll be looking at that for phase 2, hopefully.
It's incredible, and it's good to know that we've got it. Really good.
Sandra's got her hand up. Do you want to?
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, Sandra.
Hiya. Yeah, sorry, forgive me if this has already been mentioned, but I'm sure some of you are aware that of the Stop Cunnan Gateway North campaign, trying to stop the new road going through Cunnan, through Aberdare. I don't know if you're aware of that, but it's going to be a massive loss of habitat, and we're working really hard to try and stop that road from taking place. It's a mile road. It's going to cost millions of pounds, and it's just going to link one part of Aberdare to the top of the valley. So I just didn't know whether you guys were aware of it.
No, it's the first time you know, actually, Sandra. So yeah, I've noted it down. I'll look into it, and again, I can get your email, so I can give you I'll drop you a line.
We're on Facebook. We're on Facebook and Twitter. Stop Cunnan Gateway North.
Gateway North. There we are. Yeah, thanks for that.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Cheers. Yeah, we need it.
Yeah. Any other questions for Richie? But yeah, lots of, maybe again that could be a nice group way of getting us all off Teams and together for an event next year to actually get us up on one of the peatland sites.
Absolutely, yeah, either for a guided walk or, you know, I think train the trainer was mentioned earlier, something that we can offer where sort of some of the ecological training that I'm not delivering, but the ecologists are, things like sort of species recording. So I think citizen sites recording is what we've named it. But again, it's just putting records onto CBREC, so that can be delivered through our events. it'll probably have to be on our CWSs, but we've got quite a wide range of habitats, so we can sort of tailor it to whatever's there. And yeah, the same for sort of habitat sort of monitoring, essentially. So phase 1 through to sort of species identification. So it's worth keeping a sort of, well, I'll speak to Rose and sort of you can circulate Rose, but there's plenty going on, and train the trainer sounds brilliant.
Yeah. I'll share around any events that Richie circulates. I will share with the email list, and we also tend to share them on the Facebook page as well. So just and you can go off and follow Lost Peatlands directly. But yeah, no, that'd be brilliant. We'll try and do that. So thanks very much, Richie, for coming and presenting.
Good.
There we are. So we are nearly. I'll just share my screen again. We're pretty much covered everything we're going to cover this evening. I just wanted to make a little mention again of the LNP Cymru pot of money that the Local Nature Partnership currently has. It's only a small pot of money for projects up to £1,250, but it's basically not many restrictions on it. If you are doing something positive for nature, then it's worth, and you would like a little bit of money, it's worth applying to the pot. So this is the group I mentioned earlier doing the toad patrol. So they applied to the fund in Port Talbot for some of those toad ladders I mentioned. But if you're doing meadow management and you want some rakes for the group, or help with your bird box materials, anything like that, you can apply to this fund. It's only around until the end of March now. So if you wanted to get something, get your bids in, and I can circulate the form for that. It's quite simple, but if you wanted help with it, you can just ask me. It's all done through me. So, and then there's a panel from the partnership. So if you've got any questions or thoughts or potential projects on that, just let me know. Yeah, and that's it for the evening now. So that's my email address and mobile number. Good timing, the dogs just started scratching the door. So the next meeting we're going to have is the 1st of March, and that will be for April onwards. Before that, we will try and have a Train the Trainer event then, because I think that'd be really, really good. But yeah, I'll switch off the recording now, and we're free to have a chat and share any thoughts if you want to.